What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. It is Kelly. If you guys don't already know who I am, I have an Instagram, kellynicolefit, where I post a lot of fitness and nutrition tips. So go ahead and give that a follow if you don't follow me already. But today I'm going to be going through a complete beginner's guide to calorie deficits, how to set up yourself with a calorie deficit, how to know if you need to be going into a calorie deficit, and just all the little things that you're gonna need to know along the way. So before we get into it, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below, hit the notification button as well. Give this video a like if you find something useful from it, and tell a friend if you might think that they need it to be told. So let's get into it. First of all, let's talk about what a calorie deficit is. You've probably heard this term a lot on Instagram or wherever you get your fitness knowledge from, if that's YouTube. But what does that mean? What is a calorie deficit? Think about money for a second. Let's say we're talking about money and not calories. If you are spending more money than you are making, you are in debt, right? You are negative in terms of the amount of money you are making. You're in debt. That's basically what a calorie deficit means. You're in debt, but with calories. So you are eating less calories than you are burning in a day. Basically what that means is that your body's going to start using what it has on it as energy, since it's not getting enough energy from food. So that's why a calorie deficit is really important to losing body fat, because it is what is needed for your body to actually use those fat stores that you want to be gone, right? So how do you get into a calorie deficit? How do you know that you need a calorie deficit? Let's tackle all that right now. First, let's start with, how do you know if you need a calorie deficit? So this question is a little bit tricky, because if you follow me on Instagram or if you've seen any of my content before, you know that there's something called reverse dieting. So we have a calorie deficit, which is just like typical dieting, and then reverse dieting. What happens with a lot of people when they are trying to lose body fat is they're currently not eating much. They're eating like 1,400 calories, 1,300 calories, 1,200 calories, maybe even 1,500 or 1,600 calories, and they want to lose body fat. Well, if you're averaging about 1,500 calories a day and you want to start to lose body fat, but you're maintaining on that intake, well, then you're gonna have to start eating 1,300, 1,200, 1,100, which is for the majority of people a very unsafe amount of calories that you would be consuming, which is not good, right? So for somebody like that, where your average intake is pretty low to begin with, and you're maintaining your weight on that intake, meaning you're not losing weight, you're not gaining weight, you're just pretty much staying the same, you would actually want to reverse diet. First, you would want to get your calories up, increase your intake so you get to a better place where you can start out a deficit much healthier. If you are at all interested in reverse dieting and you think that might be you might be like, hey, yeah, I barely eat and I need to be reverse dieting first. Go over to my YouTube. I have a ton of videos about reverse dieting over there, you guys. A ton of information on Instagram as well. And then you can also go down below and apply for coaching if needed. But there's plenty of information all over my Instagram and YouTube about reverse dieting. This is going to be about deficits. So who are the people that will go straight into a deficit? Those are the type of people who are definitely eating plenty of food, and you know you are. You're eating well over 1,700 calories. Let's say at least, like, it's dependent on the person, so this is kind of hard to say, but I will say at least 1,800 calories, if not more than that. So how are you gonna know? Let's say you've never counted macros before, you've never counted calories before. How will you know how many calories you're averaging right now? That's kind of hard, right? What you're going to do is you're going to continue eating exactly as you are now. You're not going to change anything, but you're going to track it in MyFitnessPal or whatever app you want to use to track your intake. You're going to track any ounce of alcohol you have. You're going to track the fun foods you're having. You're going to track the chips you're eating. You're going to track your lunches, your breakfasts, your dinners, everything for at least a week. You can even do 2 weeks of this test tracking. At the end of those 2 weeks, you are going to average out all of those calories and figure out about how many calories you're eating on average. And this is going to give you that information that you need to know about which route you should take. Again, if that is averaging out to a very low number, like 1,500, 1,400, things like that, then you will want to be going through a reverse diet first. If that's averaging out to a higher number, let's say like you get 2,100 calories, you're in a pretty good spot and you can go into a deficit. So it's gonna depend on your current intake mostly, but there's other factors to take into consideration as well, but mostly current intake. So now you know that you need to go into a deficit. You are the right fit for a deficit. You do not need to reverse diet. So how do you do it? Going into a deficit is really actually not that complicated. What's complicated, listen closely, is being consistent and also knowing when to adjust things while you are in the deficit. The actual act of being in a deficit is really not that hard. What you're going to do is take that average amount of calories that we figured out. Let's say it's 2100, like we said. If you want to take it really nice and slow, you can actually do a full week of just being at that 2100, that average amount that you found, and then go into deficit calories, or you can just jump straight into deficit calories. So what we're gonna do is take that amount, that average amount, and subtract anywhere from 200 to 500 calories. This is where you kind of have your freedom of choice and deciding about how aggressive you want to go with a deficit. I personally will do anywhere from 200 to 300, and that is typically what I do for most of, if not all of my clients, because it's just really not necessary. One, it's going to be hard for you to actually be accountable to those calories. Two, you're probably going to be moody and hungry. Three, you might end up having some bad relationships with food or be super food focused, or your workouts might plummet. You don't want that stuff. So try to be as moderate as possible is always what I like to do with my clients. But anywhere from 200 to 300 calories, you're going to subtract that from that calorie amount that you're eating. And guess what, guys? Now you're in a deficit. If you just subtract 200 to 300, again, you can go a little bit higher to 500 calories from the amount of calories that you're averaging right now, you're going to be in a deficit. Now, what about cardio? Should you be going into cardio right away? Should you be walking? What should go on there? Should you be adding cardio to start out this deficit? What I would always urge people to do when they get into a deficit is to make small changes, so that way you know, okay, this protocol change worked. This calorie amount is a good calorie amount for me, or this cardio amount was a good cardio amount for me. So I would first just drop your calories, stay there for 2 weeks, something like that. Just see how your body responds. If you don't get any positive response, if you aren't really seeing the scale change at all, then okay, you can start adding in a step goal, or you can start adding in a little bit of cardio. If you want to be a little bit more aggressive with your deficit, then yes, you can start out the deficit with some cardio, but please do not go balls to the walls with cardio right away. Cardio is something that should be slowly adjusted through your deficit, because what's going to happen when you are in this deficit, newsflash, your body doesn't like deficits, okay? Let's start there. Your body doesn't like deficits. It's a very stressful thing on your body. Your body likes homeostasis, where nothing is changing, everything is maintaining, and when your body is losing weight, it does not like that. So it's going to try to get you to stop losing weight. So how's that going to happen? Well, different things are going to happen inside you where your BMR is going to slow down, and your NEAT, the amount of calories that you burn, just kind of like fidgeting throughout the day. You're going to slowly do less of that because you're more tired now, because you have less energy. All of these factors are going to mean that you're burning less calories in a day now than you were before. So now that calorie amount that was once a deficit for you is no longer a deficit for you. So you have to do more, burn more calories, or eat less calories to get past that plateau. I plan on doing a whole video about plateaus, so if that was confusing at all, stay tuned. I will do another one. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. But overall, what I'm trying to say is that eventually you're going to hit plateaus, and in order to get past those, you'll need to do more activity like cardio or like steps to get past that plateau. So if you're starting out your deficit with 3 30-minute sessions of cardio a week, or 4 30-minute sessions of cardio a week, when you hit plateaus throughout the process, by the end of the deficit, you might be doing 6 cardio sessions a week for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, which is just absurd, right? So you want to make sure you're using increases in cardio, and you're using cardio as a tool, not as just something to just throw all at your body and stress it out. And your best bet, honestly, is to go into a deficit doing 0 cardio beforehand, so that way you have plenty of room and plenty of cardio adjustments to do to get past those plateaus. Because if you're coming into a deficit and before the deficit you're already doing 3 30-minute sessions a week, well, by the time you're in a deficit, that's not great news, because now you're already starting out with a lot of cardio. So next thing you want to make sure you are doing, and this is something that I think so many people forget, and I don't know why, but it's so imperative. Take progress pictures, take progress updates, measure yourself, weigh yourself, all those things. I have a lot of people who say they're so scared of the scale and they don't know what to do about it. They want to see this progress, they want to progress in the gym, they want to lose body fat, all this stuff, and they're just terrified of the scale, so they don't know what to do. First of all, if you're that terrified of the scale and you ignore the scale, you avoid the scale, that does not fix your problems. You've probably heard before from like therapists and people who work with people on mental problems that they're trying to get through, through, a lot of times they talk about how avoiding those problems does not fix those problems, right? It just suppresses it. It just pushes it down, pretends it's not there. It doesn't actually deal with the problem itself. So what I suggest personally is to weigh yourself every day so that you see fluctuations are normal. You see that that's part of being a human and being, especially a girl if you're watching this. A lot of girls have a lot of hormonal fluctuations, which causes a lot of scale fluctuation. That is okay, that is normal. And when you start weighing yourself every day, you start to see that that is normal, and what you're looking for is the trend. You're not looking for each individual scale number, okay? So that's the one thing I would suggest. Second thing, obviously progress pictures. If you're not taking progress pictures, you're gonna miss out on a lot of progress that you're making. It's a very easy way for you to see the changes in your body that you might not be noticing on the scale, because even if you weigh yourself every day, the scale is still just giving you a number based on the weight of your body, not on the body composition. So you could be gaining some muscle, losing some body fat, and you're not gonna see that from the scale, but you might see that from your pictures. Overall, make sure you're actually monitoring your progress, make sure you're actually taking those measurements so that you also know when to adjust your protocols and your cardio and your macros if needed. And that brings me to the last point. When should you adjust your macros, and when should you adjust your protocols, your cardio, your steps? Inevitably, like I said earlier, you're going to hit plateaus and you're going to have to adjust things. The hard thing is knowing when you're at a plateau and knowing when it's not a plateau, because there are going to be times when you think that you're at a plateau because the scale's not going down anymore or the scale's going up a little bit, but it might not actually be that those macros aren't working anymore or that the cardio isn't working anymore. It might just be that you're not being consistent, or it's a time of the month coming up, or your digestion's been really off, or your sleep's been really off, or your stress has been through the roof. All of these factors will cause scale fluctuations that will make it look and maybe even feel like you're no longer progressing, or like you're actually gaining weight back, when in actuality, there's not that happening. It's just other things going on that is causing all this to happen. So getting that under control first will help you actually see if you need to be adjusting things or not. If you can clearly tell and clearly see that, no, I'm not extra stressed, I'm not, sleeping poorly, my digestion's great, I've been putting all the effort into the gym and I'm recovering well, and my period's not coming up, and all these factors all check out, and you're still not progressing physically with the goal that you have of losing body fat, then fine, you can adjust things, decrease your macros a little, maybe add in some cardio, whatever you want to do. But please make sure that you are checking out all these other things first before you make that decision, because you don't want to preemptively drop your calories or increase your cardio if you don't need it, because there's no fun in that, okay? Nobody wants to be eating low calories. It's not a fun thing to do. You'd much rather fuel your body with as much food as possible while still seeing progress. That is how you get into a deficit. That is how you continue to be in a deficit. And obviously at some point the deficit does have to come to an end, and that is when you will go through a reverse diet. Even if you started out the process, like I said earlier, with reverse dieting first and then a deficit, you can go back into a reverse diet. And just because you have another reverse diet doesn't mean you're gonna gain all the body fat back or anything like that. You just wanna get your body out of the deficit at the end of the deficit, because you don't wanna be in a deficit forever. That's not gonna be something that your body enjoys or likes at all. If you're confused again about reverse dieting, there's plenty of videos on my YouTube talking all about it. So go ahead, poke around, watch some videos. And if you guys got something from this, feel free to give it a like, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications, and I'll talk to you in the next one.